All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're breaking down a topic that, often sounds a bit esoteric or maybe a little woo-woo to some people, but we're going to look at it through a highly structured, totally logical lens. We're talking about the actual science of changing reality. Because if you've ever felt completely stuck, constrained by your daily grind, or just kind of like you're running on a treadmill of someone else's expectations, well, this explainer is going to give you the practical, quantum-based mechanics to completely shift your life. We're basically taking manifestation and turning it into a structured science. So I want you to think about this. Is time controlling you, or are you controlling time? This is a really profound question. It was actually posed to our subject today, Regan Hillier, by one of her mentors when she was just 19 years old. Picture this. At the time, she was an architecture student who suddenly realized she was living her dad's dream, not her own. She had desperately tried to break out of the system. She invested in literally every wealth creation course she could get her hands on, and she ended up over $100,000 in personal debt. She was absolutely ready to throw in the towel. But this single question challenged her, and it challenges all of us, right now, to audit how we view our current reality and our limitations. Are we just helpless victims to our circumstances and the ticking clock? Or are we the creators of them? So here's our game plan for this journey today. We're going to cover the 80-20 rule of reality, touch on the quantum physics of manifesting, run a really cool daily experiment with manifestation alarms, look at bending time, clear out those energetic blocks, and finish up with entangling with your future. Let's get right into it. Part 1, the 80-20 rule of reality. This is our foundational hypothesis for today. The idea here is that reality is not this fixed, external cage that we're trapped inside of. Think about the ratio. 80% of what you create is an internal game, and only 20% is external action. I mean, as Regan points out, if the quantum field, or the universe, whatever you want to call it, merely responded to hard physical effort, then exhausted people working around the clock and living off caffeine would have absolutely everything they want. But we all know that's just not true. It is incredibly tough for high achievers to swallow this, because we are heavily conditioned to believe that more sweat automatically equals more reward. We think we just need to grind harder. But reality creation is heavily, heavily weighted toward your internal energetic state. You can't just change your external reality by pushing harder against it. You have to fundamentally rewire that internal 80% first. Once you do that, everything else just flows effortlessly from that baseline. Moving right along to part 2, the quantum physics of manifesting. Okay, so we know the 80-20 rule, but how does our internal 80% actually interact with the physical, tangible world? Well, in quantum physics, there's this incredible principle known as the observer effect. You might have heard it linked to the famous cat-in-the-box thought experiment. Essentially, particles exist in these vast waves of infinite potential. They aren't fixed. They only collapse into a set, solid, physical form once they are actively observed to be a certain way. And this isn't just some wild theory, it's observable science at a microscopic level. Now bring that right back to your mindset. If you're walking around doing all these wealth affirmations, but internally, deep down, you're observing your life through a lens of unworthiness, scarcity, or fear, well, you are literally collapsing the wave of your reality into that exact negative form. You're commanding the universe to give you a physical experience where you aren't good enough for that money or that success. You are the observer dictating the final outcome. All right, part 3, the experiment with manifestation alarms. So the big question, how do we fix that internal observation? Let's take this from theoretical physics right into actionable science with a protocol you can literally start using today. Step 1, pull out your phone and set an alarm to go off every hour. And please, make sure it's a pleasant sound, not one of those jarring morning alarms that throws your nervous system straight into fight or flight. Step 2, when that alarm chimes, take just 20 to maybe 120 seconds to physically feel what it feels like to already have your desired reality right now. Not hoping for it next year, but having it this exact second. Imagine the vivid, visceral details. If your goal is a beach house, I want you to smell the salt air. Feel the warm wood of the deck under your bare feet. If it's a new business, feel the actual weight of the pen in your hand as you sign that massive contract. Feel the rush of excitement. And then step 3, command that feeling to dial up, double it, triple it throughout your whole body. If you regularly cultivate the feeling of already having your desire, eventually your physical reality and your future dream begin to blur. It's exactly like waking up from a dream that felt so intensely real, you're convinced it actually happened. By training your quantum field like a muscle, you're vibrating at the frequency of your goal before it even arrives in the physical world. Let's look at part 4, the variables, specifically bending time. There is a critical variable here that can either massively accelerate your results or completely ruin the experiment, and that is your relationship with time and deadlines. Seriously, think about how malleable time really is. If you're sitting in a waiting room to see a doctor and you're incredibly anxious, 7 minutes stretches out to feel like 3 grueling impossible hours, right? We've all been there. But if you're spending your last 7 minutes with a best friend you haven't seen in years, that time completely blurs and vanishes to feel like a single minute. Time is driven entirely by your emotional state. It's a double-edged sword. If you have a strict deadline for a goal and you contract in fear, like you're panicking the time is running out, constantly obsessing over the calendar, you're actually stretching the timeline out. You're blocking opportunities and pushing your goal further away. But if you can stay open, curious, and joyful, you literally bend time in your favor, naturally accelerating your results because you aren't wrapped up in all that resistance.
Section 5. Clearing your energetic blocks. Which brings us nicely to our second variable. We've got to deal with the internal friction, the bad data, so to speak, that knocks us out of coherence with our desires. There is no plan B. There is no fallback plan. Regan noted that when she works with highly successful multimillionaires, this right here is the ultimate mindset shift. The single most common block to accepting more wealth or success is keeping a safety net. Think about it. If you say, well, I'll try to start this business, and if it fails, I'll just go back to my old corporate job, you are energetically available to failure. You are telling your quantum field that not succeeding is a perfectly acceptable, realistic option. You've got to go 100% all in so that achieving your goal becomes the only possible reality. Ironically, this safety net is actually the very thing that tangles you up.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Going all in creates intense fear. So how on earth do we manage that without completely panicking? Enter the concept of the vision beyond the vision. This is an absolute game changer. Oftentimes, when you're right on the edge of achieving a massive goal, let's say making your first $1 million, your unconscious mind views that goal as a dangerous cliff. Why? Because our nervous system is hardwired to view anything unfamiliar as a massive existential threat. It thinks, if I step off this cliff into the unknown, I won't survive. So your nervous system triggers self-sabotage to keep you safely locked right inside your familiar comfort zone. To bypass this freakout, you need to plan 1 or 2 levels beyond your initial goal. You've got to show your brain that there is a safe, solid step just past that cliff and a beautiful road continuing onwards. $1 million isn't a cliff, it's just a simple stepping stone to, say, 1.5 million, a new family home, and some amazing philanthropic work. You have to reframe these blocks as unlocks in a video game wall. You just have to find the key to open the door to the next level, and that key is making your brain feel safe with whatever comes next.
And finally, Section 6. Entangling with your future.
Guys, this is the ultimate reality hack to wrap up our explainer today. We are going to use the actual concept of quantum entanglement to borrow wisdom and energy from the future version of yourself. In quantum entanglement, 2 particles can fuse, merge, and directly impact each other no matter the physical distance between them. And since we are all fundamentally made of particles, you can actually command that the future, highly successful version of you updates your current self right now. It's all about embodying the tiny micro-choices of your future self today. When Regan was still in that massive debt we talked about, she went to a speaking event filled with highly successful, wealthy people. She felt like an absolute imposter. She was hunched over, staring at the floor, literally trying to be invisible. But then she stopped and asked herself, wait, how would the $1 million version of me walk into this exact room? And she physically pulled her shoulders back, started making direct eye contact, and fundamentally shifted her entire vibe. She drove a beat-up $800 car back then, but she would close her eyes at red lights and imagine the steering wheel felt like the pristine, expensive leather of her dream car. You import the posture, the quiet confidence, the radical authenticity, the specific foods they eat, the boundaries they set, and the things they firmly say no to. You make those micro-choices in the present, effectively dragging your future reality into your current moment. So I'll leave you with this. Which micro-choice will your future self make today? You now have the structured science to actually change your reality. You understand the 80-20 rule, the observer effect, the alarms, the insane power of time bending, and why you need to remove those safety nets. The minute this explainer is over, you have a golden opportunity to make a conscious choice. Do not wait for your external circumstances to somehow give you permission to change. Shift your internal state right now. Pull those shoulders back, step into that future version of you, and just watch how reality rearranges itself to match you.